And good morning once again. Thank you for joining us at the top of the hour. We have our first featured company out of the gate here, folks, including Alastair Still, CEO of GoldMining Incorporated. Alastair, how are you this morning?
I'm fantastic. Thanks, Mark. Good morning to you and all the attendees.
Excellent. We're super thrilled to have you back here. I'm going to get out of your way for your presentation. I will join you shortly for the Q&A session after you've done your tour. I'll be right back.
Okay, thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Alastair Still. I'm the CEO of GoldMining Inc., and I'm thrilled to be presenting today. I've been at GoldMining for about a year now. I came from a career working for the major mining companies and very excited to walk the attendees through our presentation this morning. I will be making some forward-looking statements in the presentation today, and invite the attendees to read that at the leisure. That's also available on the GoldMining Inc. Website. So in quick summary, what do we have at GoldMining? I think what sets us apart is that we are essentially a unique combination of a very large mineral inventory, mineral resource base, and an exceptionally strong balance sheet to advance and move those assets and move those resources into higher confidence and de-risk our portfolio. That portfolio right now has over 16 million measured and indicated gold equivalent resource ounces and a further 16 million gold equivalent inferred resources. An exceptionally large portfolio, primarily gold projects, a few gold and copper projects, but importantly, all of those projects are located in mining-friendly jurisdictions throughout the Americas. We have on our balance sheet a very sizable interest in Gold Royalty Corp. We are the largest shareholder of that company. We currently own about 15% of that, and we'll go into a little bit of detail about how we created that company earlier this year, further strengthening GoldMining's balance sheet and unlocking value from within our portfolio. But that company was launched earlier this year with a successful IPO, raising over 100 million Canadian dollars, essentially on the strength of GoldMining's assets. But we'll detail that in a moment. So a strong financial platform that we're building upon with our large resource base. We currently have over $130 million in cash and equity holdings. The largest portion of that is the 20 million shares we do own in Gold Royalty Corp, and valued at just around $5 US per share, has a value on those shares alone of over $100 million. We've also recently announced a facility with BMO, a $20 million US facility. So that's provided us with cash and a very strong balance sheet as we move forward. And it's really that combination of a strong portfolio, a very large resource base, with a strong balance sheet that sets us apart and lets us move forward to advance things. We'll be moving on a few of our key projects, which I will highlight today. We have a number of projects which we will take on partnerships for and evaluating opportunities for, and also some other opportunities to unlock value in our portfolio, including a uranium project that we have. Is not a core activity for gold mining uranium, but certainly is in a very attractive jurisdiction in the Athabasca Basin. And that's an asset in our portfolio getting attention, especially with the hot uranium prices. And we'll be looking at ways to unlock value on our Rhea uranium project. So we look at the assets within gold mining, and as I say, they're all within the Americas. We are in Canada, the US, Colombia, Brazil, and Peru. We have a very significant portion of those 16 million measured indicated gold equivalent ounces and 16 million inferred ounces. The majority is based on gold. We're over 81% commodity exposure to gold, but we have an increasingly important component of copper. With the copper prices rising, a couple of our key projects do contain copper, and in fact we have over 2.7 billion pounds of copper combined in the measured, indicated, and inferred categories. That gives us some excellent leverage to the higher copper prices as we advance our projects as well. So the inventory of ounces, or this large portfolio of mineral resources that we have, really starts to differentiate us. And from a foundational point of view, we've done considerable work this year on those resources. Building up from a foundation of strength on those resources, we did calculate new resources on key material properties within our portfolio, totaling about 75% of our total resource base. So we have new resources, they're fresh, they're up to date, they have greater confidence, we're pleased with those. And it's those resources that really add strength to us and make us an attractive project, or an attractive company with a large inventory, and particularly so amongst the major companies and the producing companies, which, as we see on this graph here, have been unable to produce or unable to replicate, with their exploration and acquisitions, unable to replicate or reproduce what they've been mining. So we're seeing here over a 10-year period approximately a 40% decline in the reserves of the major companies in this past 10-year period, largely due to underfunding of exploration. But what that does, it creates an excellent opportunity for us, and really what it goes to show is that the major companies and the producers are looking to replace what they're mining. They haven't been able to do it with the drill bit, and even if they were to start more active exploration today, that process of exploration can take many years. So they're actually actively searching for new projects, new companies that they can acquire that will add to their dwindling reserve base. So that makes us and shows that the projects that we have that much more scarce, that much more sought after. And really, it's that portfolio of resource ounces that GoldMining has that has such a unique proposition. And it's the acquisition of those that sets us up for success in the future. And over the last approximately 10-year period, GoldMining has been a very active acquirer of projects, picking up projects at very opportune moments in downturns in the market. When companies were going through distress situations, we were effectively able to pick up assets in our portfolio for about 10 cents on the dollar is what it works out to. And really emphasizing here that the companies we acquired, most of them were single project companies. Their total peak market cap before they were acquired was over $800 million, some $850 million in value. We picked up those assets for some 10 cents on the dollar. And really now we're a company in transition to unlocking value in that portfolio. We see on the bottom of the graph, we've started that process. We've started to unlock value by the creation of Gold Royalty Corporation. We own 20 million shares in that company, valued at some $130 million. So if you subtract that from our current market cap and look at our enterprise value, you can see there's a lot of untapped value there, waiting to be unlocked, waiting to be de-risked as we move our projects forward, and that'll create value for our shareholders. As a quick glance at the information on the company, we have been very astute with our capital, with our spending. In the last few years, I've gone without having to do dilutionary share raises to raise capital. So we've been very efficient there. There's about 150 million shares issued and outstanding. The cash balance here is from last quarter end. As I said, since then, we've had a $20 million US facility with BMO, and we've taken the first 10 million US drawn on that facility. So we're in a good cash position as well. We are listed on the TSX, the ticker symbol GOLD. And we're also on the NYSE American, the ticker symbol GLDG. We've got some excellent companies providing us coverage, the most recent of which is Laurentian. Happy to bring them on board, and they're joining Haywood, H.C. Wainwright, and Roth providing coverage. And we have a number of key shareholders, including Sprott Global, Ruffer Gold, KCR Fund, Extract Capital. And we have we're also included in the GDXJ VanEck exchange as well. So I wanted to go back and talk first about unlocking value in the portfolio, and no better way to show how we can do that by showing what we've already done. And earlier this year, we did write small royalties on properties within our portfolio. We put those into a new vehicle. We had a very successful IPO launch, and Gold Royalty was created. That has brought on a tremendous value to GoldMining and our shareholders. And in fact, it's that position of shares we're able to use to secure that facility with the Bank of Montreal. And Gold Royalty is really a tremendous success of being born this year. And we think that successful IPO was fundamentally based on the strength of GoldMining's assets, which created this company. An experienced management team was brought in. David Garofalo and John Griffith came in to drive this company. I also serve as a director of technical services with Gold Royalty, and it's really a growing company. It's made two transformational acquisitions already this year. It acquired Ely Gold Royalties, and it also recently acquired Abitibi Royalties and Golden Valley. So a growing company. It's got producing royalties in the portfolio now, and some 190 royalties in total. So a great success story. GoldMining remains the largest shareholder, owning about 15%, valued at over $100 million US. So that's a model we would happily replicate if we were to create and further spinouts within our portfolio. So as we start to talk about the projects themselves, I'd first like to move into Brazil to talk about those projects. And people always ask, "Oh, which is your best project?" And they say, "Oh, okay, you're talking about your San Jorge project in Brazil. It must be your best one." I'm not, and it's difficult to say which one is best. It's like saying which child of yours is your favorite. But certainly, San Jorge is a very advanced project, and that's why we talk about it first. It's in a great jurisdiction. It's in Pará state in Brazil, a very active mining state. Brazil, a good country to be operating in. But importantly for San Jorge, it's very close to infrastructure, very near the state highway. So it's got excellent access. You can drive right to site. We don't have topography here. There's no mountains, no extremes. We have an agreement with a cattle rancher who's kept the property free of garimpeiros, and we think it's an excellent area to be operating in and advancing our project. And importantly on San Jorge, if we see on the image here, it's in a growing district or trend. What we have seen recently in the news is that Eldorado sold their Tocantinzinho project to GoldMining, and that was valued at some $100 million. Cabral have been actively drilling their Cuiú project. And so we see a geological trend tens of kilometers long here. San Jorge is at the southeast end of that trend, or the known end of that trend, and we see possible growth to extend that even further. So a growing district, an exciting project with excellent infrastructure. As we start to look at the project itself, we can see the resource here. And what jumps out, and particularly for an open pit project, is the grade. It's got exceptional grades, well above 1 gram per ton. It's split evenly, roughly, between indicated and inferred ounces. This is a gold property. There's about 700,000 ounces in the indicated category of gold at a grade of about 1.5 grams per ton, exceptional grade. And in the inferred category, there's also approximately 700,000 ounces, again, north of 1 gram gold per ton. So grade, exceptional infrastructure. And the image on the left really shows that infrastructure. It's open areas. You can see part of a camp that was there previously. We have an office facility, and that road is within 1 kilometer or 2 of the main state highway. So excellent infrastructure. So we look a little closer at San Jorge. We see the resource here, but the image on the right corner really helps illustrate that we have a well-defined resource. There has been over 37,000 meters of drilling, so it's good definition of that resource. But the trend that's striking in this northwest-southeast direction, it appears open in both directions right now. And in fact, if you continue to the northwest, you will continue up to Sarabis Palito mine, then Tocantinzinho, and the Cabral property as well. So that trend continues for tens of kilometers to the northwest. But what we see on our own property is we see the strike extent open to the southeast. And we see an IP anomaly there, and we'll be doing some follow-up work to see if we can identify additional targets on that extensive extensive strike length. And really on that extensive strike length, what it shows is that we have a very large land package here. There's over 46,000 hectares on our San George property. Over 90% of that is unexplored. So it provides an excellent target for further exploration. And one thing just to also illustrate here is on the grade front is we can see the resource table at the top of the page, and we can see how well those grades compare to Tocantinzinho, which has just been sold for $100 million and is being advanced by GoldMining, and the current resources that were published on Cuyu, also north of a grade, but we're very pleased with the grades that we have at San George. So shifting now a little further to the north, I wanted to highlight a project which has largely been hidden over a number of years since we acquired the Whistler project from Kiska. But Whistler is a very sizable gold and gold copper resource in Alaska. We think Alaska is an exceptional mining jurisdiction, and we see that the Fraser Institute agrees with us. They rank Alaska as the 5th best jurisdiction in the world for investment attractiveness. So they see the positivity of a project in Alaska. We're about 100 miles to the northwest of Anchorage. We're on entirely state mining claims, so we have no conflict between federal and state lands. It's a straightforward exploration and permitting process. There is a current winter road they've used in the past to get to the project. There's a runway strip at site, and we have some positive relationships with the native corporations in the area. There's not near any settlements or towns, so it's a good part of the state to be operating in. And a lot of questions have been asked about Pebble and what it means for development in Alaska. And Pebble, like every project, was in a very unique situation that it had challenges. Whistler is in a completely different part of the state. It's open for development. In fact, the governor and the state of Alaska themselves are encouraging development in this part of the state. And we'll talk briefly about a funding project that the state is funding to study an access road into the project as well. We see a neighboring project who have been drilling year-round, so year-round drilling is possible here. So it's certainly an exciting project that we start to reawaken from a period of dormancy, and we start to get our heads on the data and the potential of this large project in a great jurisdiction of Alaska. So we see in the table here the resources at Whistler. It is certainly a district scale property. There's over 170 square kilometers in the land package of state mining lands. On an indicated gold equivalent basis, there's approximately 3 million gold equivalent ounces. And in the inferred category, we have almost 6.5 million gold equivalent ounces. So a very sizable deposit. A large portion of the mineralization is a classic copper gold and gold copper porphyry style mineralization with some nearer surface and higher grade epithermal mineralization associated with parts of that as well. And currently we've inherited a project here, acquired a project with a very sizable resource base, but also a good amount of drilling has been done in the past. There has been over 70,000 meters of diamond drilling on the project, so there's good information, and we think it stacks up very well compared to some of the other large projects in this part of the world, both in terms of size, but also in terms of the gold equivalent grades as well. So we certainly see that as a positive. And on that large land package, there's also, see in the image on the right here, a number of untested porphyry targets, which actually get quite exciting when you see how close they are in proximity to the main resources at Whistler. And there's a couple of key developments on Whistler even before we start to activate our project and de-risk it with our own activities. But what we have seen, we're encouraged by success of our neighbors just immediately to the west of us and adjacent to our property. Nova Minerals have been having good success with the drill bit, and in fact a recent headline intercept from them of 400 meters at 3.5 grams per ton. That has us very excited as being immediately adjacent to that. In fact, that may represent a new style of mineralization, a higher grade style of mineralization that will help us develop new targets for exploring at Whistler as well. So very positive to see activity from our neighbors in the area. And we actually have some shared infrastructure with Nova Minerals. So that should help us when we reactivate our project in terms of sharing resources and making things more efficient to reactivate. And also would like to highlight a recent announcement by the state of Alaska. And that's a very important announcement for us because the state is actually funding and have announced funding of $8.5 million for continued feasibility study work for an access road that would connect the settlements just west of Anchorage and connect us to Tidewater with an access road, which is effectively go to the steps of our Whistler project. We think that's such an important announcement, and it lets us work towards a public-private partnership arrangement for that road, giving us access and giving access to the people of Alaska to access the large number of resources that are available and are being explored along that road. So very exciting developments at Whistler. It has us very encouraged by what we see there, and we'll start to look at our own activities and how we can unlock and reactivate Whistler project ourselves. We have also announced earlier this year that GoldMining is active with 3 preliminary economic assessments, or PEAs, on the 2 previously announced San George project we've talked about. We've started one on our Yellowknife project in Northwest Territories, Canada. We have a 3rd one on our Mina project in Colombia we'll speak to in a moment. But Yellowknife is an exciting project as well that has a PEA started on it. And what really attracts us about Yellowknife is the high grade of this resource. The majority of this resource is open pit. It has a grade over 2 grams per ton in the measured, indicated, and the inferred categories. So it has grade, has access through a winter road. And there's a number of targets on the project that start to get very interesting. As we go through our PEA, we're looking at opportunities, identifying a number of things that certainly merit follow-up. And one of the things that has me very encouraged is that the project right now contains the past producing Discovery Mine. And what we know about the Discovery Mine is that it produced over 1 million ounces of gold at a grade over 1 ounce of gold per ton. So a very high grade operation. And what we do know from recent successes in Canada generally in the last 10 to 20 years is past producing high grade underground operations have seen a second lease on life with exploration and unlocking tremendous value. That goes back to the Goldcorp days in Red Lake. We see the success Kirkland Lake has been having with their Macassa mine, high-grade rediscovery story there. Osisko have been having success at their Windfall Lake project in Quebec. So a number of past producers have done very well with exploration, unlocking tremendous value. And we see a number of targets at Discovery Mine that certainly merit attention and follow-up. And that's just one of a number of targets on this large land package that previous operators had spent some $60 million on exploring. It had been taken at one point as far forward as a feasibility study. And there's over 200,000 meters of drilling on our properties and claims here on the Yellowknife project. So extensive past activities as well. Shifting again a little further to the south into Colombia now. We actually have 3 projects that are located within one of the most prospective gold belts in the world. This is the Mid-Cauca Belt in Colombia, it's referred to. We have 3 projects which are located just to the south of the mining center of Medellin. And there's a number of companies who are very active in this area. And we've seen frequent press releases and project developments and operational news that have come from Zijin, who are now operating very successfully their Buritica mine just to the north of Medellin. We have the Anza JV, which is Agnico and Newmont are exploring here. We see the activities going on with B2 Gold. Anglo Gold is very active in the area as well. So a very prospective area, very active by a number of companies. And in fact, the Mid-Cauca Belt has unleashed discoveries, some 100 million ounces of gold in the last 10 to 20 years. So very prospective area. There's a lot of activity going on. We have 3 projects that are all 100% owned by GoldMining Inc. There's been a number of drilling campaigns on these projects, almost 200,000 meters drilled on them. So we see a number of opportunities to further unlock these projects, which again are quite close to infrastructure as well. And one of the projects that sticks out to us, and is one that we have launched a PEA study on as well. It's the 3rd project we have a PEA study on as well. And in fact, that study is getting very near to completion. So we'll be releasing results on that in the near future. And I think what is important about that PEA study, it is showing that the current resource, which is shown on the table here, has very good grades. The gold equivalent grades for this gold copper porphyry system are above 1 gram gold per ton, and it has an extremely low strip ratio, and the order of less than it's about 3 or 4 to 1 strip ratio. So it's got a good strip ratio, a high grade, and that core resource is what we're focusing on in the PEA. But what it points to is, and what we've shown in the PEA, and we've shown in past campaigns by past operators, is there's excellent potential to expand that resource. And with a strong PEA on the core resource right now, with potential to expand it, gets us very excited about Mina. And when I say we're excited about it, this map illustrates that very well. The current resource that we have at Mina is drilling that was conducted entirely on the La Cantera and Middle Zone deposits. They're shown on the image, and what we're showing on that image is the orange drill traces, and you can see a concentration of drilling on La Cantera and Middle Zone, where the existing resource is right now on those 2 porphyry centers. And underneath those drilling dots, we see on the geophysical survey, this is the mag high image. You can see there were mag highs that were drilled. Those were the targets. But what the image also illustrates very clearly is that there's a much larger mag high just to the east, a target known as La Garucha, and a previous operator had started to drill that, but importantly, additional land has been added on the east side of that, so that we now contain that entire anomaly within our land package. And we're very excited to be starting the work to investigate how best to drill that, and we'd like to be drilling that target in the new year. And you can see the table here. There's been some exceptional drill results on La Garucha. Over 200 meters drill core grade over 1 gram per ton, and a copper grade of about 0.15. That's shown in hole 1100. And importantly, that La Garucha target was never put into a resource. It shows good continuity of mineralization, good grades. So we think with a fairly modest drill campaign, we have potential to add exceptional new resources to Mina, which would supplement a very strong base PEA that we're working on right now. And helping us facilitate that work in Colombia, we have good infrastructure. We have a small office there. We have a country manager, we have a geologist on board there. So we have the foundational, not only the bricks and mortar and the buildings here, but a team to help us initiate that work. And we're excited on what may come for Mina in the new year on our project in Colombia. So that, I think, is a good summary, a good snapshot of gold mining. It is exceptionally undervalued project in our minds. It shows exceptional growth. Our projects are throughout the Americas, and in fact, we hold one of the largest portfolios in terms of gold equivalent resources of any junior explorer developer. In fact, many intermediates or majors would love to have a resource base our size. We have made some significant additions to our team in the last year. I came on board. We've added to our team since there. We've added an exceptional project engineer to our team who's also worked for major mining companies. So we're adding to our team. We have done recent resource estimates on our material properties, and they account for almost 75% of the total gold equivalent ounces in our portfolio. So we're pleased that we've refreshed those. We think that's foundational to further de-risking and advancing our projects by having a very strong resource base. So we've checked that box. The successful launch, the IPO this year of Gold Royalty Corp, that helped unlock over $100 million in value. That in turn helped us get the facility from BMO. So we're now have an exceptionally strong balance sheet underpinned by our equity holding. We own about 15% of Gold Royalty, 20 million shares. Now have a strong cash position from that BMO facility. We've drawn 10 million on that facility now to start it. So exceptional balance sheet strength with projects which we're advancing, showing some good project work. We started 3 PEAs, which we've talked about. We'll have results for the first out in the near future, and those PEAs are really helping us better understand the projects, what further opportunities there are to advance them further and de-risk them further. But what we haven't really touched on here is also the other projects in our portfolio. You could consider them non-core, but by themselves they could be standalone companies run separately. We're focusing on and targeting our key projects. We will be looking to take on partnerships to advance our other assets, such as our Rhea uranium project. We talked about this at the top of the presentation. It's an exceptionally large land package in the Athabasca Basin, and uranium is very much sought after these days with extreme prices. And it's not a core project for us with our focus on gold, but certainly we think that project has a lot of opportunity to be unlocked from our portfolio. And I think that model that we had with Gold Royalty could well in fact play out for creating other new cos on some of our other assets in the near future. And really that value proposition within gold mining, nothing illustrates it better than our enterprise value per resource ounce, particularly if you take off our market value, the $100 million US value in the Gold Royalty shares. You can see that we have a very low enterprise value for resource ounce, and we think as we further de-risk our portfolio, further advance our projects, we'll see that that value enhance, and it could enhance by multiples if you look at peers that we're comparing ourselves to. So there's an exceptional opportunity for a re-rating, and that has us at GoldMining very excited about the future, and we'll be very excited to be making further announcements on our projects as we continue to de-risk them and generate and unlock value from one of the largest resource portfolios amongst any in our junior space. So I think that will conclude my part of the presentation. I'll turn it back to Mark, if I could, please.
Alastair, thank you very much. A very well-rounded tour and many points of light through the presentation. I appreciate that, as does our audience. We have quite an active Q&A column happening, which is always a great sign. I do want to start, just always like to look back at most recent press releases at companies, Alastair. And just recently on November 24th, there was a release about the saprolite news coming out of the company. I wonder, just for those of us that are newer to that territory, how would you describe what that moment was for the company, and what does that do moving forward?
Well, it's a great question, and I think what that helped us illustrate was that as we started a PEA study on San George, we started to look at what opportunities were there, and as we dug deeper, what we noticed is that the past operators on that project, in the majority of the drilling that had been done there, it had not been continuously sampled. Mm-hmm. So we started looking at the model. We started to go back to look at the core, which is in very good shape. It's kept housed indoors, so it's out of the elements. Mm-hmm. And we recognized in that core that there were certainly intervals that had zones of alteration and mineralization, which may not have manifested themselves as a higher grade, for example, underground type grades, but from an open pit perspective, we thought there was potential there to add to our model and better define our model. Mm-hmm. So we started a campaign of resampling the core that had already been drilled, and we did have 2 announcements on that. The first announcement was that we showed that there were in fact some mineralized intervals down hole that had not been sampled that will add to our model and add to our geological understanding as we work out that model. Mm-hmm. But that new release really got us quite excited because the saprolite, which is in the very uppermost portion of the drill core, this is an area that can be quite weathered, quite altered, but it's oxidized material, And in fact, this is the area that is largely targeted by the Garimperos for extracting the gold because it can be recovered quite easily. And what really surprised us, was incredible positive surprise, was that we were getting intervals from 7 to 12 meters in a couple of the holes, grades running from 0.7 to 1 gram per ton in saprolite material, which can very easily be recovered. The gold from it can be shovel ready. It's not even drill and blast. And the color of those holes are already within the constraints of the resource we have for the pit. So this is material that was outside of our model, completely new to us, within the resource shape already. So that got us very excited. And in fact, when we went back and looked at the cores, we found out that the majority of the holes had not sampled the saprolite. So we've now started a second campaign of sampling. We're going back into the old cores and doing a follow-up campaign to see if we can replicate some of those results that we've recently announced. And again, exciting because that material effectively is already included as waste that would be stripped to get the resource because it's outside the model right now. And if we're finding gold in it, that's a tremendous benefit for our studies there.
Good to hear. Thank you for the insight on that, Alastair. Moving over to some of our audience questions. Ron says he's a longtime shareholder here, Alastair. And what are the plans for the Ria uranium property? Firstly, spin out for shareholders, and secondly, looking for a joint venture property.
Well, I think the question itself has sort of highlighted the sort of the two key potential outcomes there, and many of our the viewers today may know that Rhea is a large project. It's a large resource, or sorry, a large property package. But within the center of that, there is a JV on an actual resource, uranium resource, which we have a JV partner with. And I think the question is exactly right. We're trying to see if we can. What can happen with that JV arrangement, and tied in with the large regional land package, it lends itself extremely well as a potential a NewCo or a SpinCo project. So stay tuned for that one. We certainly see value there that could be unlocked, and I think it's just one of many examples that there are assets within our portfolio which are largely unrecognized by a number of people. Yet when you look at other junior explorers in the Athabasca Basin, you see some of the market caps, $50, $100 million on projects smaller than that. Gets us pretty excited about the potential of that project.
Very good. Thank you for that. Question coming in: how did the recent gold royalty IPO create value for gold mining?
Great question. And I think the first thing that sort of is important to point out there is that when Gold Royalty was launched and had a very successful IPO earlier this year, it was upsized twice and it was able to raise $90 million. The reason that was able to launch was we wrote small royalties on assets within the gold mining portfolio. And it was those royalties that formed Gold Royalty, and which was combined with an exceptional management team. David Garofalo, former CEO of Goldcorp, brought in to run that. But I think that first thing was that was a validation of the quality of the resources. The market jumped on board with that so quickly. And the second thing that really sort of go forward for us now is that we've crystallized that value so that we can now put on our balance sheet. We own 20 million shares in Gold Royalty. We're longtime holders of that. We see the potential growth in that company. And as we see from royalty companies, it may start paying a dividend. It's made some successful transformative acquisitions. So we've put that onto our balance sheet now to crystallize that value, which was just potential before.
Right.
And the benefit of that has already been exemplified because we were able to use that strength of our balance sheet, use that as margin to create a new $20 million facility with BMO, which has allowed us to fund our activities without causing dilution to our shareholders.
Wow, great choreography. Thank you for that, Alastair. Next question comes in. What are some of the key targets, Alastair, for gold mining's upcoming exploration programs?
Well, that's a good question as well, because what we've done over the last several months as we go through our portfolio, we're rating and ranking things. And it's a transformative process because gold mining has not been an active explorer. It's been an exceptional track history of acquiring assets. And now we're in the de-risking phase as we start to advance them. We've identified a number of targets. San George, we just talked about. Although we're finding mineralization and exciting things in the existing core, we're also seeing new targets that will merit drilling to better define that and to expand that resource at San George. So I think that's an area that we're actively putting together details for an exploration program on. And we did touch briefly on the exploration potential on our Mina project,
Mhm.
and particularly the La Garucha target. This is an exceptional target. It has past drilling in it, and I think the past operator had just finished the drill campaign when they were acquired, so they never went back to finish that campaign. We're excited by that target. We think if we find and can quantify that the potential of La Garucha into a third gold copper porphyry on the project, it'll really make the base PEA that we're working on right now even more valuable and much more enhanced with a new target there at Mina. So stay tuned for announcements on Mina, as we're currently engaged with local stakeholders now about initiating a program there in the new year.
Great. Thank you for that. Next question up here, Alastair. What is the expectation for cash flow from royalties in the future?
Well, not so much from us in terms of cash flow. The royalty company, Gold Royalty, will be looking at cash flow, and the cash flow to us from those royalties really might translate if there's a dividend on the Gold Royalty shares.
Mm-hmm.
So Gold Royalty, as a standalone company, they have a number of assets now in their portfolio which are cash flowing. They have a great growth pipeline that new projects are coming in to development stage, and they're being advanced that will be cash flowing in the future. So Gold Royalty will be generating cash. We're the largest shareholder of that. So that may translate into a dividend to us in the future.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Barry asked this question. Thoughts on copper assets, Alastair, in a sense of priorities as a result of copper prices?
Great question. And there's been a lot of interest in copper in our portfolio. I think we will keep our focus towards gold as being our primary focus, but certainly projects that have gold and copper, or copper and gold, and as many the geologists will know that it's not, there's no ability to choose whether the projects are more copper rich or gold rich in some of these porphyry systems. And we certainly are very excited by the copper within a number of our resources right now. And in fact, our two largest mineral resources, Whistler project in Alaska and Titiribi in Colombia, they carry the majority of our copper resources, and we're thrilled to have copper there. What that does for us, it adds a lot of value to the projects on a number of fronts. Is as we calculate gold equivalent ounces, the higher copper price certainly helps there. But the other thing it does, it also helps diversify our projects in terms of who's interested in them, who's looking at our projects. As we've highlighted in the presentation, we have too many projects in our portfolio to advance them all ourselves.
Yes.
So we are actually actively looking for partnerships and companies who would be interested in advancing projects together with us. And the diversity to having copper brings in a greater spectrum of companies who are interested in our projects as well.
Very good. Thank you. Moving on, what is happening on the projects, Alastair, in the portfolio that GoldMining isn't active on? How will you unlock value on those assets?
Great question. And of course, the first part of that sort of assumes that we are staying focused on our key projects. And that's one thing that we have to do with 11 projects that we have resources on. Focus will be key. But those that aren't active right now, we have a number of companies who are under CA who are looking at our assets. We are looking at partnership opportunities, divestitures. I think we'd be unlikely to just sell things and give away what potential there is on those projects. Our preferred method is to find some form of partnership where someone else can advance, we can share in the upside, or as we've illustrated very successfully with the launch of Gold Royalty, there are opportunities for creating new cos or spin cos from those assets, as several of those assets could be standalone companies. And we've talked about things such as Rhea, which is a uranium project, non-core to us, but certainly could be launched and spun out. A number of companies are looking at things like that right now in our portfolio.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Let's do a little bit of a look ahead. It's always a good forecast moment here, Alastair. What are your 2022 goals for GoldMining?
Oh, okay, great question. I think the key goal for Gold Mining is to really continue to demonstrate and provide confidence that we have an undervalued portfolio.
Mm.
So we will show continued ways that the properties are undervalued, and increase that enterprise value per resource ounce, which will translate directly into a higher share price for our investors. We will begin our inaugural drilling campaign for the company. That puts us on a new path forward to further de-risking and unlocking value in the portfolio. And as well, we will be releasing results from our PEA studies. And I think that's an important aspect as well, to underpin and help quantify some of the potential. Rather than just speaking to it, we're able to show that there's actual real studies done and how the project can be advanced. So we'll be exploring, putting out exploration results and further opportunities to unlock in the value in the portfolio. And we've highlighted a couple of the Newco or SpinCo opportunities, and it'd be great to see some results on that front in the new year as well.
Very good. Well, you've just touched on my last question about publishing new PEAs and how that will benefit the company. So I appreciate you lumping that in as well, Alastair. At this point, as we approach the top of the hour, it's been a fantastic share for our audience and some fantastic questions. Curious if there's anything else that comes to mind to share, anything you want to leave us with as top notes moving into the new year.
Well, I guess I just want to highlight once again is that Gold Mining has been a project that has been an acquirer for some 10 years. And it's a great model. The chairman and founder, Amir Adnani, has done an exceptional job acquiring assets, building up a very strong portfolio. This is really now harvest mode for us. We think it's a great time with the gold prices the way they are, rising copper prices, to really turn what has been a story of acquisition into a story of unlocking and quantifying the value in there. And we think that provides tremendous opportunity for our shareholders in terms of a re-rate on what we already have. And as we further de-risk the projects, that value will be much more apparent and demonstrated, creating further value for our shareholders. So very exciting time, a transitional time for Gold Mining. And we look forward to putting out new information and updating our shareholders and our viewers in the future as well.
Terrific. Alastair, as always, a very solid share. I appreciate the insight and perspective from your viewpoint. And we'll look forward to watching the company into the new year to see where things go. Thank you very much for all your time today.
Yeah, well, thanks very much for hosting, Mark. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. We'll look forward to the next time. And if the gods are with us, folks tuning in from around the world, you should be directed to a survey. We welcome your feedback. It's been great having Alastair part of the journey today. And then from there to the top of the hour, we will be featuring Monarch Mining as our next guest. So I will close out this session. Look forward to seeing you at the next one. Thanks so much.